it looks like we're in focus. Hi, I'm Joshua Thomas, and I'm here to talk to you about storyboarding your script before you write it. Now, this is the second video I've made about storyboarding your script, and I encourage you to watch the first one. So if you haven't seen it, click about right there. Click there because this video is going to build off of that one. Now, it's been several months since I've made the first video, and I haven't shaved since then. Okay, that's a lie. But the truth is, I have completed the board behind me and written the first draft of my script. And the first draft ended up being around 94 pages. In fact, it was a little less than that, and I was actually able to go back and add a little bit of flavor text. So now take a moment to see the board in its entirety. Now, in my last video, I explained my reasoning for the way that I color-coded my board. And I want to emphasize the red cards, because the red cards are those high conflict scenes that I feel are going to be the scenes that the audience watches this film for. These are the scenes that the audience is going to remember. They're the scenes that are going to make the audience cringe or say aw if it's a comedy or a romance. In a horror, it's the ones that's going to make them scream. In this one, this script is more of a thriller. So these red cards are action scenes where maybe people die or get beaten up, or where the main character just runs into a lot of trouble with the villains. Now, it's up to you how you want to color code your own storyboard. Instead of, say, using one color for each line, you can use one color of card to represent character development cards. You can use another color to represent plot progression. Also, notice that none of the lines are straight. All the lines are a little curvy. This represents the main character. Every time the line goes up, the main character is in a good mood, or good things are happening to the main character, or the main character of that particular scene. Remember, every card doesn't necessarily represent your main character. Some of them can represent perhaps the antagonist, or the villain, or one of your subplot characters. Now, every time the cards go down, that means bad things are happening to my main character or the main character of that scene. And you can see where the red cards are placed that the conflict leads either to positive or negative. Now let's talk about conflict. My red cards are only high conflict, not just the conflict of the entire film. Every single scene should have some kind of conflict. If you remember in the first video, there were lots of holes in this section of the script. I was able, using this storyboarding method, to come up with scenes and figure out where my characters were going to go based on the scenes I'd written before and what couple scenes I had already figured out in my head. The scenes that I had come up with when I thought, gosh, this would be a really good story to write. Now, in each card, you've got a plus and a minus sign. Now, the minus might come before the plus, or the plus before the minus. What this means is the character, the main character of that scene or segment, started off in a worse place than he ended up. So he went from a negative to a positive, and that's why this card is slightly above this one. And now in the next segment of the story, things turn around because the bad guys in this area are closing in, his friends are dying, and he's losing the love of his life. And that's what's happening in this segment right here. Now let's look at one individual card. This one right here. Put that towards the front. In this one, David meets Blaine on a country road to talk about the mafia. Now notice I didn't put the conflict here because I hadn't quite fleshed out this scene yet. But David was alone, now he has Blaine. He's got a friend, so he goes from a minus to a plus. Well, actually, in my writing, I decided to change this to where they never met. The mafia followed David and was unable to meet with Blaine. So the conflict here is going to be that David wants to see Blaine, but cannot because of the mafia. And instead of a minus to a plus, it would change from a plus to a minus. Now, I didn't change this card because I was too busy writing. And it doesn't matter that I changed the card, because as long as you're in the midst of writing and you know where you want the story to go, you know that in order for it to get from here to here, that this segment or this scene has to change. On a final note, remember that this board is fluid. Just because you tack something up there doesn't mean it's final. You can always rewrite because you are in control of your own story. Now, in writing my first draft, I found that certain scenes weren't going to work. Here's one of them. I had to take it down because I realized if I left this scene in there, well, the bad guys were going to win. And I didn't want a tragedy. I wanted, to have sort of a happy ending. Also, at some point in your writing process, if your characters don't take over the story for you, you might want to think about revising your story. At a certain point, the characters kind of took over and said, "Hey Josh, I don't think we would do this in this order. In fact, I think I would actually do this before I would do this." And the story made a lot more sense after that. And it had a better flow to it. In fact, it felt more real because it seemed like what my characters would actually do, not what I wanted them to do when I first started writing the story. So remember, anything you put up here can change. If you got any questions, feel free to leave a comment. And if you liked the video, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'm Joshua Thomas. Thanks a lot.